like, what parts of race are you like really looking for to show that they understand the theme? And you touched on it just now, but I'm thinking of how you can say that in like a really concise way.
Okay, so I would say we're going to race our response around this prompt. You guys have been doing a really good job with the R and the A, restating the question and answering it. But I've been seeing that we need more practice on citing our evidence. So we're going to focus on remembering to write the page number, including a quote, and just being really focused on the C in race.
So tell them to be focused on the C, and I would be even more precise. Like I may tell them that I'm looking for, you've been doing a really good job of restating the question and answering the question. So you would answer your question by telling me what the theme is, but I'm also looking for you to support with it what you feel like the theme is by giving me, and I would say something like two key pieces of evidence from the text. That includes like either a quote or a specific event and a page number that it happens, so that they know like exactly what you want to see when you're monitoring. And then if you think about afterwards, when you bring scholars back together to launch a discussion, and we talked about this a little bit a few minutes ago, how can students learn from one another to come to a consensus of an answer around theme, since that's what we're thinking about. So if you want to like launch a discussion after they've had the opportunity to write, what would you ask them to do?
I would ask a child to share their response. I would give them time to share, and then I would ask another kid, what do you think about that response? Do you think that's correct? Would you add anything to it? And I would try to start a discussion between scholars.
So I think you do want to like have a discussion. So you'll want to have the discussion first. So after they write, they should have an opportunity to do something like a turn and talk. And you talked about like giving them, you asked me like, how would you have them start talking about their writing? So you give them a sentence stem, like you're going to turn and talk to your partner. You're going to give them your definition of theme. You'll start your conversation, or partner A will start the conversation by saying, I believe the theme is whatever they think, and they should cite their answer. And then partner B can say the same thing. I think the theme is blah, blah, blah. And they can think about how their answers are like similar or different.
And since it's going to be their first time doing this, I might ask them to write down things, because I want to make sure they're really like thinking and talking about it.
Yeah, I agree. And then I would say, like you talked about like them sharing out. So before they even get ready to share out, they need to know what they're going to share. So tell them that when we discuss, you're going to share out what was similar about either another scholar. Is like a good way to say, it's like to make sure they're listening to their partner. What was similar in your answer to your partner's answer, or you can ask them how they revise their thinking based on what they talked about with the partner. That holds them more accountable for listening. And then give them like a time limit for the discussion. Like that's like one key piece, and you actually mentioned that too. Like I think a turn and talk, they can have like 2 minutes, a minute to 2 minutes for each person. And then again, like you talked about, like giving them the final theme. Like once you have had a rich discussion around their turn and talks and their discussion, you can have an exemplar response. And they can either like look at their response, and they can do something as simple as like a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a thumbs to the side, like if they kind of agree with it, to like support what the final, like to support the final exemplar response. Like think about how theirs matches the exemplar, and why or why not. So like I would, for the sake of time, we have a few more minutes. I would like for you to, I think we'll work first on just the launching the writing piece. So I'm going to have you take about 3 minutes to write down like the lunch to the writing assignment. So we talked about like, what were the things that we talked about when we launched the writing? When you give them the directions, what are some things you want them to do?
When I was launching the writing, I was gonna, I didn't write that stuff down, but I know it's up here.
So you wanted
I wanted to recap the thinking steps. I wanted them to write down a statement about the theme, but I wanted to like push the C really hard, and I was gonna ask them for 2 pieces of evidence.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let you script that out. So we'll take about 3 minutes to script that out.
Okay.
And then we'll practice what you would stand up and say to scholars. Is it y'all's prep time? Is it your specials? Did you just get to school? Did you just get to school?
We're doing gym.
Okay. Well, you should go to the gym right now.
I'm trying to put these in the classroom.
Oh, can you just take them to the gym and put them on the stage? And then you take them to the classroom?
Yeah, you can do that.
But she's probably working.
Mm-hmm. Hey there. Okay.
So you can stand up and like, I'm in your class. You just
Okay.
taught me and did your wonderful think aloud.
Okay. All right, so scholars, now that I've modeled the first two questions of our strategy, I'm going to give you a chance to show what you know. Your prompt is, what did the character learn in the story? So you will have 3 minutes to write down your response, and you will be racing. Lately, I've noticed that you've done a really good job with restating the question and answering the question in your race responses. But I've noticed that we need more practice with the C, citing your evidence. So today I really want you to focus on meeting the citing your evidence expectations. So I want to see a page number, and I want to see 2 pieces of evidence from the text in your response. I'll be monitoring as you're working to make sure that you stay focused, that you're thinking really well about the C. And I will have you share your response with the group when the time is up. You can begin now.
All right, so I think things that you did that were effective, and I'm going to use your script. You gave me a time limit for how long I would have to write. You told me what I was doing well with race, which is the R and the A. You told me I was going to focus on the C portion, which is like citing my text evidence. And you told me that at the end, you will be able to share a response so that they know they're going to be held accountable for saying things out loud. I think the highest leverage piece of feedback is, since the C is something that they need to work on, like really punching the language around what it means to be successful at citing evidence. So you said that you would have 1 to 2 pieces of evidence in your response. So I would say something more like, you will need to have 2 pieces of evidence from your text that support your answer. Like they need to know that the citation needs to match the answer. Like 2 pieces of evidence that support your answer. And you said earlier that the evidence should be like quotes or what else did you say? Events from the text.
I think I only said quote, but I should have probably said, a summary of the event or something on the page.
Yeah. So we'll just practice that in one piece, and I'm communicating that to your group about what it means to like have an effective
And yes, Renelle is here as well.
citation.
All right, so lately you've done a great job restating and answering the question in your race responses, but I've noticed we need more practice citing our evidence. So today we're going to work really hard to cite our evidence well. When you're citing your evidence, I want you to include the page number of the page of your evidence. I want you to give me 2 pieces of evidence that can be that will support your answer. So that could be an exact quote from the page, or it could be a summary of the events that happened on the page, but it needs to be something that supports your answer. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's good, because it tells me as a student, like I know that I need to go back into this text. I need to cite evidence. I need to find something in quotation marks, because we've been telling them, but we just need to like keep
Saying it.
Yeah, and holding them accountable, and then that's something you can monitor for while they're working and give them feedback on. All right. So we will work on this action step as soon as we're done with step testing. So over the next week, so we'll work on making sure that students write first and then have an opportunity to talk second. I will be coming in, and I'll make sure that you know when I'm coming in to schedule time to look at how you launch the writing and how you launch the discussion. If I don't plan on doing like a lot of like live coaching for that, but if I see that it's time for you to do the launch and like maybe you're not stating it clearly or you haven't launched the writing, I'll just hold up like an index card with an L. It just says launch. And if it's time for the discussion and it hasn't happened, like if you're running out of time, I may hold up a D. Or like if something happens and you're not monitoring, and for like monitor for the discussion or the writing. And I think just as a quick hit, make sure you have the exemplar response that you want. So if it's for this lesson and it's on theme, make sure you have an exemplar in hand so that you know how to probe and get feedback. Because over time, you want to work on like tightening the probing as well.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you for taking time.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit over.
all good.
But I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Your girls group is working hard.